Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. The Law and Justice Party convention has begun in Warsaw today. Notable politicians, including party chairman Jarosław Kaczyński, as well as Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, took active part in the conference, presenting the newest campaign promises. Some of them are entirely new, some are an extension of the already running programs, while some were originally drawn up by the opposition parties.
Main campaign proposals include an extension of the 500+ program, which would allow parents to collect 500 zloty monthly social benefits for each of their children, personal income tax exemption for citizens under 26 years old, 1100 zlotys as a base pension from May 1st onwards, lower personal income tax, as well as the reinstatement of bus connections between smaller towns.
Jeśli nasi przeciwnicy wygrają,
if our opponents win, Poland will be worse off than before. There are people who want to take away our freedom of conscience, our religion. This campaign will show whether our countrymen care about values based on the Christian culture.
na chrześcijaństwie.
The upcoming European Parliament elections, as well as the autumn National Parliament elections, are supposed to bring more change in Poland, as said by Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki.
Bardzo szanujemy opozycję, tak?
We respect the opposition, therefore we are going to fulfill the promises they made. Back in the day they promised to lower the VAT tax, but they ended up raising it. On the other hand, we lowered the corporate income tax, made the start easier for the employers and enabled lowered rates for articles such as pacifiers and strollers.
Istotny podatek.
Zaczynamy kampanię wyborczą.
We are winning, but it is a difficult road uphill we are facing. Months of hard work are ahead of us, yet I believe we will make it happen.
Każda z nich jest ważna.
The Law and Justice Party will announce further points of their election program in June and July.
The newest survey concerning preferences to the European Parliament election shows that the opposition's forecast does not adhere closely to the polls. According to the study published today, the Law and Justice Party would most likely win the European coalition.
Today, the Rzecz.pl website published a survey made by the estimator company. The survey shows that the ruling Law and Justice Party polled 39% of amongst voters. The European coalition is in the second place with 33% of support, which concerns the Civic Platform Party, the Democratic Left Alliance, the Modern Party and the Greens. The Spring Party, led by Robert Biedroń, polled 10%. The Cookies 15 movement scored 7% and the Polish People's Party 5% of votes.
Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki announced to the Israeli news outlet Haaretz, refusing to accept any gross generalizations framed on the Polish nation in relation to crimes perpetrated by Nazi Germany. In his response to the Israeli foreign minister's scandalous accusation, Morawiecki focuses on the tense relations between Poland and Israel and have arisen in the past few days. Former Israeli minister Israel Katz quoted former Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir when he said, "The Poles imbibed anti-Semitism with their mothers' milk," which was the reason Morawiecki cancelled his participation in a Visegrad summit, scheduled to be held in Israel. "I have no problem with someone mentioning the fact that during the cruel, evil, dehumanizing war, there were individual criminals in my nation. Obviously there were, just as in every other nation," says Morawiecki. But when you use these stereotypes that every Pole suckled anti-Semitism out of their mothers' breasts, it's nothing short of racism. Polish Prime Minister also adds that such language were used by a radical extremist, not by a foreign minister. He also suggests that controversial statements as these might have been caused by Katz's desire to make headlines during electoral campaign happening in Israel. He later cites recent report of the European Fundamental Rights Agency saying that Poland is one of the few countries where number of anti-Semitic accidents is decreasing. Netanyahu was initially quoted on the Jerusalem Post as having said that the Polish nation colluded with the Nazis. His office issued a statement that he was speaking about individual Poles and not about the Polish people or the country of Poland. Morawiecki said that he spoke with Netanyahu, who confirmed that he stands by his declaration in June, which rejected actions that aimed to blame Poland or the Polish nation as a whole for the crimes committed by the Nazis and their collaborators from other nations. Prime Minister also stressed that Poland itself was a victim of the Nazis and highlighted the efforts of Poles in aiding their Jewish neighbors, while collaboration with Germany was never an official position of the Polish state. Poland was one of the very few states without a puppet Nazi government, and the only one in which a person helping Jews faced death penalty at the hands of the Germans. Finally, Morawiecki highlights, I believe that we still need to educate people across the world, especially younger generations, about who was responsible for orchestrating these crimes, and hopes that Poland and Israel can soon return to cooperation. That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily. But stay tuned for the Poland Daily Weather Report, followed by Poland Daily Business section.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Odderstein and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tonight we are expecting quite low temperatures with a minimum of 6 degrees around Olsztyn, 6 degrees minus, also 5 degrees minus in the area of Białystok, also in Lublin, Rzeszów -4. Central Poland will see -4 as well, and -1 will be the maximum around Koszalin. The air pressure will be very low tonight, and now let's check the forecast for tomorrow. So tomorrow we will see quite a bit of sun in the area of Krakow, also around Katowice 5 degrees, 6 degrees in Krakow, Central Poland 5 degrees and 4 in Łódź, and the maximum will be 7 degrees in Koszalin, also in Poznań, and 8 degrees in the western parts, also around Szczecin. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business Edition. And tonight we will speak with Matthew Tyrmand, American writer, Polish novelist, and columnist of Prost and Do Rzeczy. And welcome to the show. We are witnessing a tidal shift in Polish-United States relationships. We used to share ideology, we used to share freedom, but now Poland is a customer for U.S. Energy products, and that changes the situation a lot.
Well, it's, this news that happened in the last couple weeks about a 24-year inked LNG supply deal from Cheniere Energy, one of the major players. In fact, their equity, the stock ticker in the New York Stock Exchange is LNG, Cheniere. Big deal, important deal. Really, in my view, the biggest news story of the year in Poland, because we've all been talking about it. It's one of the onuses of the 3 Cs initiative, is to coordinate among these higher growing Central and Eastern European countries that have a similar cultural and economic profile coming out of communism and this Iron Curtain at the same time, most of these nations. Energy policy and security on the source diversity of raw energy is an absolutely key driver of Polish stability and Central European stability. We saw what Russia did with Ukraine when they were engaging in their initial revanchism and turning off the oil spigots in the middle of winter. They're not afraid to use their energy complex as a political weapon. For them, it's not economic, it's political. And so there needs to be a diversification away from Russia for Central Europe and even parts of Western Europe. Germany is undermining the entire European Union project. They talk about harmonization of both politics and economics, and then they do a backdoor deal with Russia and Nord Stream 2 for their own self-interest, and which further weakens the Central and Eastern European nations who are trying to get a foothold in the sort of global marketplace. So this 24-year LNG deal that was worked on very deeply by both Morawiecki and Duda in the White House with the Commerce Department, Wilbur Ross, with the Department of Energy, and Rick Perry, with industry directly. Morawiecki's sort of initial great legacy bullet point was bringing Świnoujście online right over the border of Germany and Pomerania as sort of an open spigot to feed the entire Central and Eastern European 3 Cs complex. And now they're a Bulgarian depot is also going to be coming online. So there's a lot of hugely impactful components to this dynamic that are going to help Poland and Central Europe, not least of which is the security component of not just energy source diversity, but the U.S., now that Poland is a major counterparty in raw energy. This was one of Trump's first goals, if people recall, the first executive orders he signed after he was inaugurated in January 2017. He went to the White House and he signed executive orders to open up the Dakota Access Pipeline and the Keystone Pipeline, 2 major pipelines to bring raw energy from the north, from places like Canada and the North Dakota area of deep oil and natural gas source deposits coming into the complex, and creating these pipelines to bring them down south to the refineries so that then they can be shipped and sold all over the world. This was his number one predicate. And so to have Poland come on as such a big counterparty further bolsters the incentive to get American troops helping secure the NATO peripheral border. Fort Trump is coming, and the LNG deal is one of the reasons why it's going to come even faster with higher scale behind it. Of course, having the Polish government be willing to commit their own capital to defending their border as the NATO peripheral border is also a huge sign of faith. Trump really is very happy about these dynamics, both the Polish commitment to fund permanent basing, as well as the energy counterparty deal. So, I mean, this is really, really good news. And Poland led on this. Morawiecki and Duda both worked really hard on this. And, you know, what's sad is that as big a news story as this is, nobody really wants to cover it because for the leftist media, they can't give credit where credit's due. And to the rightist media, they can't really attack the left with this. So there's very little coverage of what I think is the biggest news story of the year in Poland, something that's going to have at least, 10, 15, 20 years of major impact.
It is important for Poland, for sure. But how important this is for United States, money-wise, volume-wise?
Well, let's be honest. The scale of the contract, though it is large, is not. It helps with American GDP. It helps with the American energy complex. Right now, the American energy complex has three major regions of exploration that are leading in America becoming the largest energy wholesaler to the world. OPEC is done. OPEC is broken. There's a reason why Saudi Arabia is trying to play really, really nice with a lot of other players where previously they were rather arrogant about their position as the anchor of OPEC, that they could actually set global political policy because of their control of so many oil reserves.
Nobody call it monopoly, nobody call it cartel, but,
it was a cartel.
But it is...
No, it was a cartel. It was a cartel. But America now has got, three major areas of exploration in Texas, in North Dakota, and in Pennsylvania, the Marcellus, the Permian, the Bakken shales. They're all coming online at a very, very high pace. And Poland is one of the first major sovereign counterparties to ink a deal with this newfound reserves. So it is a positive impact, both optically as well as economically, and it just ties our two governments, our two right-of-center, culturally attuned governments more tightly together, which is very good news.
So do you see decline of Russia as a world gas station?
Absolutely. I think that, and that is why we're seeing now new revanchist moves, because this is all they have to try and destabilize Europe. They have to go on the military offensive because economically they don't have the same levers as they did a couple years ago with America undercutting the entire global wholesale energy complex.
What about China?
Well, China's a different story. They're still getting their energy frequently from Pacific Rim. They are not going to be a major counterparty with the U.S. because Trump is very, very muscularly attacking them on their bad trade practices the last 15, 20 years. But China seems to be investing a lot in Central and Eastern Europe as well. We'll see where that tug of war goes. I don't have the answer to that yet.
So we have new position of Poland as a customer for U.S. energy products. And I understand that our provider will take care of us.
I agree.
Thank you very much for participating in our show. Our guest was Matthew Tyrmand, and that was it for Poland Daily Business.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Odderstein and welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. Tomorrow in Poland it will be again much warmer, 6 degrees in the area of Krakow with a lot of sun, also very sunny around Katowice with 5 degrees Celsius. The maximum will be 8 degrees. In the west, also in the area of Szczecin, 7 degrees in Koszalin, Poznań and Wrocław, and 5 degrees in the capital of Poland. And now let's check the forecast in Europe for tomorrow. So as we can see, nice and sunny in many areas. In Scandinavia, 11 degrees in Stockholm, 9 degrees in Oslo, but only 3 in Helsinki. The warmest again will be Lisbon with 23 degrees and 19 in Madrid, Spain. Rome will be a bit cooler, 13 degrees, but very nice and sunny. And in Paris also 13 degrees, as well as in Dublin, but Dublin will be a bit more cloudy. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
On today's episode of Poland Daily Culture, we are going to give you an insight into a foreign perspective living in Poland. We will be exploring their experiences and how they have absorbed certain aspects of the culture.
How do you think Poland is now perceived? If you have some sort of idea of how Poland is perceived from the outside, I know you're very much you're within the country. It can be difficult now to judge how it's perceived. But how would you say it is viewed upon, perhaps in Britain or elsewhere?
I think the best way I can answer this is to say that I find through my network, which is a real estate network, I find increasingly a lot of people reaching out to me, contacting me, saying, "Hey, listen, you've been in Poland for a long time. Whether we're looking to invest there, or we're looking, or friends who want to come here, and it's now firmly on the sort of the tourist route as well. Whereas historically, when anyone thought of coming to anywhere in Central Europe, they would only think of Prague and Budapest in that order, at a push Krakow. But I think now, certainly about 3 or 4 of the Polish cities are definitely on the the sort of hotspots in terms of tourism now, and I think increasingly, because through my social networking group, people know I'm here for a long time, and they reach out and they are saying to me, "Listen, we've heard that this city's great, or there's a lot of culture in, be it Gdańsk, Krakow, Wrocław. We're coming to Poland. Give us some tips." So I think in terms of Poland's perception on an international standing, I think it is really improved, and particularly in the last few years as well.
And the outside of Europe, do you think there is still some sort of misconceptions? Or?
I think there can be. I work in real estate, and we see a lot of Asian investors coming into the market now, and some of the early questions we have had to answer before they make the trip to Poland has been sort of, it seems to be a massive misconception about the level of development in Poland. And I think when they get off the plane, we spend a couple of days with them and we show them around the cities, they are incredibly surprised. And I think they see, to be honest, no difference between Warsaw, Krakow, the major cities, and Western European cities. So I think that is the overriding response we get, is that once people from outside of Europe have actually travelled here, they are very, very pleasantly surprised at how developed it is.
Right here, we're in a Polish restaurant, so I think it's only appropriate that we sort of include a question about the food. Can you tell us maybe what's the first thing you think of when you think of Polish food?
The first thing I think of is gołąbki.
Yeah. In a positive light?
In some places, in a positive light. In some restaurants, in a positive light. When it's done well, it can be. I'm a big fan of pierogi ruski, and not much to my detriment, because I probably eat too much of it, and it certainly helped add on a few pounds over the years. But I think obviously it can be quite a heavy diet, quite a meat-based diet. But I think I've grown to love it. When I first came, I did struggle. I struggled. I was never a big lover of kapusta. I wasn't a big lover of mushrooms and onions, and obviously they're in every single Polish dish. So, but over time, it's I think the level of Polish cuisine has really, really, and I think in the level of restaurants in Warsaw, Krakow, again, the big cities is really sort of on a par with anywhere in the world. I think there was a report recently out in the Times that highlighted that fact that Warsaw is one of the culinary destinations in Europe right now.
Now, I've done this slightly in reverse order because I think it's the most sort of typical question, but I think it is probably the question which tends to intrigue Poles the most. So what is it that kind of brought you to Poland in the first place?
I was sent here by my company, and but and I think after I landed in September, so I had a Polish winter. Back in 2006, when there were still proper winters. Yeah. But I think within 6 months, I fell in love with the country. I fell in love with Warsaw in particular. Is it specifically? It's hard to put your finger on. I think there is so much to it, and I would argue it's sort of how open the people were. For me as a foreigner being here, and quite often you'd get the question, like, why are you here? What are you, after a couple of years, it was like, why are you still here? Yeah. And I think, that was the question I would get asked from my Polish friends, but also from outside. There is no one thing that I can say, but I would argue probably these points. I think, how many friends I made in a very short space of time. Coming from a city like London, I've watched people from different parts of Europe come to London and find it difficult to sort of get into friendship groups and, break into networks of people. They have to sort of spend their time with, people from other parts of Europe as well, and they form sort of like an expat community in London. Whereas here, I was able to find various different groups, be they sort of my Polish friends from rugby, my Polish friends from partying, my Polish friends from work, and at the same time have an expat community that I could fall back on as well. So I think that was one of the major things that I sort of, was how open this society really is. And secondly, I think it's the quality of life thing, and I can't stress that enough. It's the one thing that people from outside don't really understand, that how green this city is. It's I think it's the greenest capital in Europe. I think it's, how quick and easy it is now, especially with the infrastructure improvements, to get everywhere, be it to other Polish cities or to the surroundings of Warsaw, which are quite beautiful as well. So I think there's a huge amount of activities to do, which on the face of it, when you first come here, you probably don't really truly understand, but after a while, you really feel it. So.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, Sean, thank you very much for joining us at Poland Daily Culture.
Okay.
In today's episode, we are filming at the beautiful restaurant Dom Polski on Belwederska in Warsaw, and I will be discussing the matter of living in Poland with Jon. Jon, hello.
Hello,
and welcome.
Paula.
How does it feel being a guest, not a host?
Feels a little bit odd, I've got to say, but I'm just going to feel my way into the role, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so since we're at a beautiful restaurant, as I mentioned already, let's maybe start with the topic of food, Polish food. So do you have a favorite dish that you could recommend to other people watching us?
Well, I like, when I go to the mountains, I love a bit of placki ziemniaki with the goulash on top. Sort of hearty mountain style food, but generally I eat Polish food every day. It's just it's completely become part of my lifestyle. I think I don't even really think about it so much anymore. It's a very sort of natural thing to. Typically, Polish food is that sort of meat, potatoes, veg. I like that sort of thing. It ticks the boxes. I like the everyday food. Big fan of the soups. Although I have to say, Polish Christmas,
it's overwhelming.
Yeah, and not such a fan of carp, I have to say. Not a big fan of carp, bit too muddy for my taste.
I've been hearing this from many people from abroad. My father even told me when he moved from Canada to Poland and my grandmother told him to prepare the carp, he was very shocked.
Yeah, it seems odd to me that this is the finale for the year. Here it comes. It's a carp. Don't mean to knock the culture tradition of it, but my understanding of it anyway is carp is not even home is not naturally from Poland anyway. They kind of imported it from China or something, and somehow it's kind of built up over time and has just become part of Polish Christmas tradition. So if I could reverse that, cut that out and keep all the rest. Have the other sort of 11 dishes, which are all very nice.
True, I agree. And so you've lived in England, in London, and so why did you move to Poland? What made you decide to move here?
Well, it's not such a sort of romantic tale, to be honest. You speak to most people, expats living in Poland, it's usually, I fell in love with a beautiful Polish woman. It's the typical story, but no, I was kind of sick of my job in England, and I happened to have one friend, my only friend living abroad, was here in Warsaw, and as I complained to him about hating my job, he just said to me, well, don't worry, the jobs are plentiful in Warsaw, I'll hook you up. I'd visited once Warsaw, and I'd liked it. I liked it a lot. He showed me the sort of the parts of it which I might enjoy. I'm quite into sort of music and nightlife, especially sort of 10 years ago. And so he showed me that, and I thought, well, great, I could make a go of things here. So I jumped into it, and to be honest, it never felt sort of particularly strange at any point. It never felt kind of alien or something like that. There's something about Poland which is...
So you feel like it's quite welcoming for foreigners?
Definitely is. There's a kind of... the thing about Poland is it takes perhaps a little while longer to build up a friendship than some other countries. But what you'll find is that it's a very sort of authentic friendship that you build up with Polish people. It's something more meaningful and longer lasting than perhaps you go somewhere else, and they might be super friendly somewhere, and you feel like you're immediately part of it, but then will it last over time? When I'm here, I feel like people, they're willing to go the extra mile for you once you've become friends or family in some case.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today, we are visiting a manor house in Gałki to learn the history and the functionings of a manor house owned by Polish nobility. We will speak to the owner of this very manor house, Waldemar Gujski, about the history of Polish manor houses. The manor house of Szlachta, or the Polish nobility, served as a center for Polish culture throughout centuries. And during times of war and the partition of the nation, it also functioned as a bastion of freedom. The Polish manor house is somewhat viewed as a social security system nowadays, or somewhat of a social safety net. And people would come here and they can depend on being given help. How does that work?
You can say that it was a very specific type of social security. Here, people could count on getting material or financial help, and I'm not just talking about the family of the owner of the manor house, but also the people employed by him, all the servants, old widows and unmarried women, the local petty nobility, and also the people who had lost their life savings in different types of military action. Because we must remember that war was a very important part of a nobleman's life. It was his duty to stand in the defense of his motherland, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. So, if a wife lost her husband due to war, she would usually find support at the local manor house. A nobleman would feel that it was his obligation to guarantee material security for all these people. This was, in many ways, a form of institutional social security, even if not regulated by law, but working very well in practice. A member of the nobility would, according to the norms, be responsible for giving the type of aid that the state provides to people, and has done since the late 19th century, or the times of the German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck. So the Polish manor house used to play the role that is performed today here in Poland by ZUS, Polish Social Insurance Institution.
What about the people from lower social classes? Can they also depend on social security provided by the manor houses?
Yes, the manor house would also provide some social security for the peasants. If there was an epidemic, someone's house had burned down, or due to war, especially in the so-called Kresy, the eastern borderlands, where people would face Tatar raids twice a year, a nobleman living there would feel a sense of duty to the local population that suffered from these raids in different ways. Because of the system of patronage in place, a remnant of the feudal system, the nobleman understood that this responsibility was supposed to fall on his plate, and he did his best to fulfill this role. Also, we must remember that in those times, there weren't many doctors available. In the 19th century, it would still often be the case that women of the manor house would treat the locals. She would have access to what amounted to a small pharmacy of sorts, and the locals would come to her for treatment. The The average peasant dreaded hospitals and doctors. He would only go there as a last resort. If he could receive treatment in the manor house, for example, getting a tooth pulled out, he'd be very pleased with that solution. He would place his trust in the local noblewoman from the manor house, and she would take care of his medical needs. This was a practice that had been going on for centuries.
Next up, we will talk with the historian Krzysztof Jabłonka about the way the Polish manor houses would function as a form of social safety net for other nobles as well as people living in the vicinity. The Polish manor house is a strong support system for the social fabric. And I was wondering if you can tell me, if a person during that era, what can he expect the Polish manor house to help out in their daily lives?
We should remember that the noble families living in these manor houses would usually be multi-generational. The oldest person in the household would normally be the grandfather of the owner. The owner's father would also be living there. He wouldn't be in charge of the household anymore, but the class and dignity of the manor would be resting on his name and coat of arms. Apart from the nuclear family, it was common for extended family to also live there. This was especially the case when it came to widows. A Polish nobleman would be responsible for all the women in the family, and he was so to a very high degree. Responsibility for women to such a high degree can otherwise probably only be found within the Georgian nobility, where women are actually placed above men, as men are considered to be their natural protectors. This is why new buildings or wings would be added to the manor house, with time as extended family members stay there for an extended period of time. We should remember that a simple visit by family members back then would normally last a full week and sometimes up to a month. This is how people lived in those times. We must also keep in mind that the family living in a manor house would also be responsible for the destitute and outcasts of the local village. This is why additional buildings would be built around the main buildings, in which widows with children would be living. They were all fed and taken care of at the expense of the local noble family. One of the most painful problems, and especially at wartime, was the case of children born out of wedlock to a nobleman. It was uncommon for such a man to have relations with young, unmarried girls from the local village. If she would give birth to a child, she wouldn't be allowed to remain in the village. She would be given a cow and asked to go and find her luck somewhere else. This was done in order so that her son would never meet with the legitimate son of the nobleman. Some claim that these illegitimate sons made up the bulk of the men who would leave the areas where central authority was strong and form the communities that later became known as the Cossacks. It could be said that by taking to the sword, they would fight for their rights. As a result, they would form their own class, somewhere in between the peasants and the noblemen. Finally, it's worth noting that the manor houses would, according to legal customs and culture, become centres of welfare, and as a result, also centres of culture. These were places where outstanding artists would find their patrons. For example, Honoré de Balzac stayed for some time at such Polish manor houses. One of the most typical things for a Polish manor house were the books known as silver rerum in the Latin language, which can be translated roughly to a forest of diversity. Only the Hungarians had a similar practice. In these books, similar to guest books, a guest to the manor house, but also the people living permanently in the manor houses, would be asked to write down everything they know or all the skills that they possess. Songs would be written down in those books. Often, Polish Christmas carols would find their way into the silver rerun. Memories would be written down too. For example, say that the father of the family would return from a war. Then he would be asked to write down everything that he had experienced whilst he was away. Another example could be if somebody went to participate in a session of the Parliament of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. This diversity of things that could find their way into a silver silver rerun book meant that it was a way for Polish noble family to document all the interesting things that had happened in the history of their family. If such a book went up in flames, it was considered as the worst disaster that could happen to the family. If a manor house burnt down, the neighbour would usually ask, "Was your silver rerun salvaged?" If the nobleman would say yes, "I managed to carry out of the flames," then the neighbour would say, "Great, that's all that really matters. The manor house can be rebuilt after all."
The tradition of Polish manor houses have seen a revival after the fall of communism. Hopefully, more and more of these amazing estates will be repaired and rebuilt back to its glorious days. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. Once again, we are on the royal route where we trip the light fantastic, checking out the most important sites along perhaps the most fabulous boulevard in the entire country of Poland. Yes, we'll be coming to you from the humidor room in the beautiful Raffles Europejski Hotel, newly refurbished and opened in 2017. This is one of the premier hotels not only in Poland, but in Europe itself. After leaving the Raffles Europejski, we'll head to the Royal Route, where we'll continue our walk, which started in the cathedral in the Old Town and continues today up to Nowy Świat. That is not just today, but the next several days we'll be on the Royal Route, and we'll be showing you all the ins and outs and what's important to know. It's an exciting trip. Poland Daily Travel, the best travel reporting about Warsaw that you've ever seen. Stay tuned.
So Arthur, we're here in the main hallway of the refurbished Raffles Europejski Hotel. It's pretty impressive, isn't it?
To reconstruct this place, they took every single brick from the previous construction of Europejski Hotel of 1949, 1951, quick reconstruction after World War II. So to construct in here nowadays best possible possibilities for guests who are coming in here from all around the world. And I think that the most glorious moments of this hotel are just starting out at that moment. So that we can see that everything's just brand new, everything's just fresh, every single detail is well taken care of. And this is right now at the moment when we start to experience it. And this is one of the first times when we can take a look at it exactly how it is, the new idea of Warsaw, the new idea of Poland, based on the first big hotel idea that was born in here in 19th century.
Yeah, so it's probably, I wonder if the hotel was ever as elegant as it is now. Well, what's this place here? We're coming into the
legendary place called the Lurs, the patisserie,
right,
when you can get best Polish cakes.
Wow.
And yes, some of them will be based on the traditional recipes from 19th century. You will never miss a cheesecake idea in such areas,
right,
or the apple pie, as far as Poland is European biggest apple producer.
Good Lord, this stuff looks dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So what have we got here? We've got, okay, pralini.
Mm-hmm.
These are kind of chocolates and other kind of sweets, right? Just candy, pieces of candy, yeah? Here we've got, what are these?
So the long one with brown line inside, it's called the WZ cake. This idea was born in communist days of Poland, when we were having this very important road, WZ, which means wschód-zachód, which means east-west.
Okay.
And there is also such comparison, very elegant, represented in here. The hearts are represented to the Valentine's Day that's about to come.
Do you think that's for coming up for Valentine's?
Of course.
It's not here all the time?
Then we are having cheesecake in the shape of coconut, so to make it more exotic. And more cakes.
God, this is a dangerous place. Soccer tour, that's the one that comes from Vienna, the Soccer Hotel, right?
Exactly.
In Vienna. The apple pie, you said, that szarlotka is apple pie.
Exactly.
Chocolate tart czekoladowa. Macaronic.
Macaronic, which in straight translation would be pasta thing.
Okay.
It's because of the way it looks over there inside. And then we are having beza thing. That's, look, what an amazing...
What is beza? What is it?
Meringue.
It's meringue?
It's meringue, yes. Meringue. On the top, this is Philadelphia cream. It's the rose.
Okay.
And inside, it's yuzu, lychee, and white chocolate.
Fantastic. It looks beautiful.
It's small art.
I can feel myself getting fatter just looking at it. It looks wonderful. It's very, very rich stuff.
This cake is without calorie, 0 calorie.
What is...
With everyone without calorie.
They have no calories?
No calories.
Special? Is that what you tell your customers?
Exactly.
And what's your name, ma'am?
My name is Jolanta.
Jolanta. No. Pani Jolanta is explaining things to us now. Which is your favorite one?
My favorite one is signature cake with the pate plum, cognac, nuts, and gold for it. And the second one is an apple.
This is your favorite? Yeah?
This is mine, and the second place is apple.
Is the apple. And now how much would it cost?
21.
That's 21.
21.
So it's about,
that one is cheaper because
it's about $5.
18.
This is 18. So it's about $4.50. And this
21 also.
20. They're about $5. Soccer tour is about
it's
20.
18.
18.
18.
A bargain. But that looks so good.
And the rest is 21.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a good place to bring somebody for a special, treat, I would say, right? Pani Jolanta. Yes. It says it right there. Yeah. Oh, what a super place. Okay. Let's. Shall we continue walking around?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right. So, okay, so we're proceeding down the hall. I remember this place, visiting this hotel when it was nothing like this. It was what was left after the old communist days. And it was a totally different feel, a different look. I mean, this is really elegant, special. It's got that Art Deco feel to it. I mean, look at the chandelier here is fantastic. This chandelier, it's beautiful. And there's a very stylish sofa here. That looks comfortable. You can sit down. Oh, it's pretty good.
And it suits your trousers.
Yeah. It's not clashing?
No, absolutely.
You think it's okay?
You are like chameleon of these days at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just melting into the sofa.
Yes.
I'm blending into the background. Okay. That's very good. And here we come into the bar. Let's go in here and see if we can talk to the bartender, because they have a famous drink at the Raffles Hotel.
From Singapore.
That's right. Let's see what he says. Nice bar here. Everything you possibly need. Comfortable chairs. Oh yeah, that's nice. This is a very comfortable chair. Try that chair.
I will.
See what you think. It's very nice, and it swivels. Oh, I could get used to this. I could definitely get used to this. This is a very nice bar. In fact, around the time of the opening, I did come here with some friends. It was quite crowded that night. Now it's midday of a Friday afternoon, and not so many, not so busy. But it's very pleasant, isn't it?
Well, it's just not everyone woke up so far.
Not everyone has woken up. You're right. Yeah.
So what we are having over there, we are having żubrówka, which is bison grass vodka. Very popular to have it with an apple juice, so to make it...
That's the famous Polish drink, isn't it?
The one with the greenish one with a herb inside.
Yeah.
It cannot be exported to all the countries because of the herb. So these are the exporting rules. that you cannot deliver it to every single country. But there is a famous bison printed on it, and we call it the bison grass vodka. With an apple pie, it combines famous Polish drink and apple pie.
And the grass is from
with an apple
Białowieża or something? Is from the old forest?
That's
area?
Polish. Yes, that's Polish area.
Yeah.
And then
That has grass in it. That's the point. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So have it with an apple juice, and we call it Polish apple pie then.
Szarlotka.
Szarlotka.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, and it is a very popular drink.
Another famous.
It doesn't have a lot of grass. It's just one piece of straw, actually.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And what's the best Polish vodka?
I don't know. What is the best Polish?
The best Polish vodka is Chopin, because on the next day you can still hear the music.
Is that right? I hadn't heard that. Okay, you still hear the music the next day if you drink that.
Belvedere, the first vodka on entire planet Earth that got 5 stars superior class. Based on 15th century recipes, it has drawn on it Belvedere Palace from Warsaw, Poland, that was originally constructed in 1740 for Polish aristocracy once again. And nowadays you have it printed on Belvedere vodka bottle. To have the permission for it, we needed Lech Wałęsa, our first after communist president, to put it as a marketing symbol on the bottle. And nowadays it's a part of huge French Louis Vuitton Hennessy brand. So this Polish vodka was bought by big international company, so they wanted to have one vodka in their portfolio, and they chose Polish Belvedere.